Well, hello, 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 everyone. Happy Sunday. Now, normally on Sundays, we do effed up news of the week, but today we have a very, very special guest, and I can tell by the amount of viewers waiting, which is normal, a little bit bigger than normal, that you guys are really excited to meet my special guest. I'm really excited to have him. So just we'll get to that in a second. I just want to do a quick programming note though that we will still be doing effed up news of the week tomorrow at 5 p.m. on the channel. I'm streaming live at 5 p.m. on Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays on my main channel now. On Fridays, we go over to my second channel. On Saturdays, I rest. So just because we're not doing effed up news today doesn't mean we won't do it tomorrow. And so you can make sure you tune in for that. And of course, if you want to support the work that I'm doing with my channel and frankly the guest that I'm bringing on today as well, you can always do that by becoming a member of my locals community. You can join at kb.locals.com. I cannot do the work I'm doing without the support of my locals. I greatly appreciate it. When you become a supporter on locals, you get access to all sorts of awesome perks, including 2 live Zoom calls with me and the rest of the community every week. We have our next Zoom call tomorrow at 7 p.m. So plenty of time to join for that. You also get access to our book club, you get access to our bitchcraft, and you just get to be a part of the very best community on locals, I believe. You can join the community for $5 a month. You can also do it for $50 a year, which gives you 2 months for free. You can also make a one-time gift, and that would all be great, and you get to join the best community on locals. All right, now, I know why you guys are here, and it's not for me. For the first time in 2 years since I have been streaming, I have finally been able to convince my husband to come on a stream. Now, he made this commitment when we were having a couple beers the other night. I don't know if he's coming to regret that commitment now that the time has finally come, but you guys are going to finally get to meet my husband, Victor. Victor is he was born in Ukraine, lived there until he was 21. He is going to be able to tell you about his story. But we were talking about what's going on in Ukraine, and I just really appreciate the perspective that he has, and I think that all of you are going to appreciate it as well. Now, a condition for bringing Victor on is that Victor would like to get enough super chats to be able to buy a gun. And I can see him right now. He's not happy that I'm telling you this. He would really like to be able to get enough super chats to buy a new gun. And so if you appreciate Victor and you appreciate what he has to say, every super chat today is going to go into the gun fund for Victor. We've already had some coming in. I can't show them on the screen, unfortunately, because they came in before the stream was set up. We have Justin White who donated. He said, "Here's some money in advance for Victor's new toy fund." We have Murphy's Pool saying that we should be drinking a tall glass with ice, 2 shots of vodka, and fill the rest with pink Moscato. He also, Murphy's Pool also reminded everyone that the gun that Victor wanted, Canik Rival Darkside, starts at around $700. So hopefully we'll be bringing in those super chats today. And we've got some other questions that have already come in via super chat as well that we will be able to address on the stream. But without further ado, let's bring him onto the stream. Hello, Victor. Hello.
Hello.
Hello from the upstairs. How are you in the downstairs?
So far so good. A little bit nervous. This is the first for me.
Well, it's okay. It's okay. It's just you and I having a chat. It's just like we're sitting on the couch, except I'm upstairs and you're downstairs, and we're live on the internet in front of several hundred people. So
Okay, sounds good.
now, okay, so the first thing that I want to point out is so I've noticed in the past few days that you have reverted to spelling your name with the K, which is the proper spelling of your name, but I've always spelled your name with the C because for a long time that was just like the informal way that you were spelling your name. Is there a reason that you have reverted back to the K?
Um, so I mean that's how it's spelled in my passport. So I know the proper spelling of Victor is with C, but in Cyrillic alphabet, in Ukrainian as well, K sound looks like actual K. So
Mhm.
whenever my name was translated for the international passport, that's how it was spelled. Um, I usually try to spell it that way, like on anything official. So
Yeah.
today, being on a stream, I put it as a K.
Mhm.
Um, but it depends. Usually, if it's official, I use K. If it's not, sometimes I use C.
I just want to confirm to everyone that I do actually know how to spell your name, and I have not been spelling it improperly this whole time. But normal, like when it's an informal thing, you do use the C. This is a formal occasion, so you've used the K instead.
Yeah, so like even in my email, I use like C, but
Mm-hmm. All right. All right. Well, welcome to the stream. Everyone is very happy that you're here. They've already been chatting in that you're looking good, that you're looking sharp with the blue shirt. And I just want to
oh
jump
yeah.
right into questions for you because people have been sending in questions. And so I guess maybe a good place to start is, maybe giving people a broad overview of how you came to live in America and like because you grew up in Ukraine and but you haven't lived there for a long time and I want to just make sure people know like you're not putting yourself forward as a foreign policy expert in any way shape or form. We're just talking today about your experiences and your perception and also the fact that your whole family is still over there and you've been communicating especially with your brother over the last several days. So can you give us a little bit of an overview about how did you find yourself in America, Victor?
So the college I was going to, they were offering exchange programs, and they're listed as an exchange, but it's more known as a J1 visa. So
Mm-hmm.
it's work and travel. You can come over and visit certain countries. You are able to work for certain months, certain period of months, and then you're allowed to travel for a few months, 1 month at that time. So I visited England. I lived in England for 8 months. Then next year, I spent summer, a little bit longer than a summer in Ireland. And then I was in my fourth year. I graduated. I got my bachelor's degree. And at that point, there was a chance to go to the US. And that's how I ended up here. I was a little bit more adventurous when I was younger. It was easier to just like leave everything and go to a completely different country without really knowing where you're gonna end up. And it's kind of funny because I ended up in New Hampshire. When I was still in Ukraine, I had no difference that there is like any difference. No idea there is difference between states. To me, US was US. So when I came up to New Hampshire, I had no idea that New Hampshire is like really different from any other states. Which, in the long run, I think I got lucky that I ended up in New Hampshire, just like living in North Conway, and it's such a nice area. It was completely different. I grew up in a city in Ukraine, so being there, all the mountains, forests, fresh air, that was just a completely different scenery for me. And yeah, it just felt like home there. So that's why I ended up staying.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And then at some point you were very lucky to meet me, so you didn't get deported. It's okay, you can say it. Everyone knows. Victor's like, I'm not even acknowledging this. All right, all right. Well,
Not the topic I'm proud of
you're
or
not
like to
proud of
discuss.
meeting me. Come on.
No,
We've
no,
been
no,
married
no.
over
Just
10
like
years.
that I overstayed visa.
Well, it happens. It all worked out for the best in the long run. Okay, we will not talk about the overstaying of the visa. Let's jump into the important questions, shall we? Let's see. Chris Carson said, Victor, and this is actually a question I've seen come through quite a bit. What is one thing you miss from Ukraine other than your friends and family? Obviously, prayers for you and your family. Victor, what do you miss about Ukraine?
Food,
Like what?
definitely. So honestly, like I don't know what it is, but like a lot of things taste different there. I don't know if it's the soil or different like brand of like even like seeds that they use, but I know for sure that potatoes don't taste the same. Like there is something about potatoes there, like you make it mashed potatoes, and
Mm-hmm.
it just tastes completely different. Butter is definitely different. I think it's more like less processed. It has a different taste. I also miss a lot of the seafood from there. And I mean, I'm sure like you can get it here, but not as readily available. Like all the marinated, salted fishes, smoked fish. Like I miss that stuff a lot.
Mm-hmm. All right. Fair enough. And just to for clarity for the stream, your entire family is still over there, right?
Correct.
And where do they live?
They live in Nikolaev or
Mm-hmm.
Mykolaiv with the Ukrainian spelling of it.
Actually, I think I have a map here. It's a screenshot I took off of Twitter earlier. Let me just share it so people can see where it is. It is a Russian speaking region of Ukraine, right?
Yes, most people. So at this time, people seem to start converting to Ukrainian,
Mm-hmm.
but not everybody.
Mm-hmm. So you can see that Mykolaiv is in the south, and this is denoting that there have been explosions in Nikolaev, although it hasn't. So according to your brother, who still lives there, well, actually, let me just ask you, what did your brother say about the explosions in Mykolaiv that he's heard?
So just to be clear, my brother is sick, so he hasn't like really been
Mm-hmm.
exploring too much. He has been at home. Um, what he says that they've heard explosions, but
Mm-hmm.
they don't know if there is actually like mass troops in the city or if it's more like saboteuring happening there.
What do you mean when you say saboteuring?
Well, so like Russian personnel, Russian army, but it's not like a platoon of them. It's just like few people there that like ended up being Nikolaev like for a few weeks and like had
Oh, Victor, your sound has gone out. Say something.
hello?
Okay, it's gone. It's gone. It's back in now. Okay.
Okay. So it's probably just like few ex-soldiers, I'm guessing,
Mm-hmm.
from like the Russian military that just like crossed in the border as civilians and then just like maybe like planted explosions.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if it's like, but again, like they don't know. I know there was like explosion right in the center of the Nikolaev yesterday, but again, in the daytime, like when the pictures were taken, like I don't see soldiers,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't know.
But they're all safe as of right now that you know of, right?
As of right now, yes. And my brother was saying that his kids and his former wife were like all spending nights in the basement of the apartment building
Mm-hmm.
just to try to stay as safe as possible.
Okay. And we got another question from Judy, I believe. Hang on, let me get it on the screen right now. Judy says, "Welcome, Victor. Thanks for joining us. Inquiring minds want to know what is the proper pronunciation of Kiev? Is it Kiev or is it Kiev?"
So I believe the proper pronunciation is Kiev
Mm-hmm.
because initially, like, I don't know what I don't know if people know that Kiev or Kiev is actually older than Moscow. So the language originated in the area around Kiev, and then tribes like spread further north, and then eventually Moscow was established, and I believe Russian was supposed to be a dialect, and then eventually Ukrainian almost became like a dialect because Russia became bigger.
Mm-hmm.
But I believe it's Kiev.
Okay. Okay. Let's see. Why don't before we jump into some of the other super chats we've been getting, and guys, thank you so much. You've been so generous so far to funding Victor's gun fund. So like when I was telling you when all of this first started that Russia was actually invading Ukraine, it was almost like you didn't even really believe it at first, and you were kind of like, oh, they've just been doing this crap for years, whatever. And then kind of as more news was coming out, and I was kind of like relaying to you like, no, Victor, this is actually a serious thing. Like, I think you started to kind of realize what was happening. What is your kind of impression in general of the entire situation?
Well, so I initially thought you were talking about like the eastern Ukraine where there was like all the military action happening. And I know like it was never like listed as official invasion. It was like always called as a separatist action. Um, it was just peculiar when it happened. So Crimea was annexed first, right? Crimea was invaded, then they did the vote, and they decided to separate. And then
Mm-hmm.
right as that happened, that's when the Eastern Ukraine started doing the same. So I think and again, it's been a while. It's been a long time ago. I have not been living there. That's just what I've seen. It looked like it was Russian organized action again.
Mm-hmm. Well, okay, let's make sure people understand what you're saying because I understand what you're saying, but I'm not sure, everyone else does. So when you say that like it's Russian organized action in eastern Ukraine among the territories that maybe have voted to go with Russia, what does that mean? Can you explain a little bit more?
So that means that like organizers there from Russia, like I'm not sure. I don't know if it's a grassroots movement that they want to go and be part of Russia, or if there is somebody there who is organizing and paying people to like go to these demonstrations and say that they want to be part of Russia.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I mean by that.
So it's
It
not.
just
Go ahead.
it's just peculiar because like that region happened. So I believe at that point Ukraine sent troops there to like prevent that area from separating.
Mm-hmm.
I believe that's what happens.
Okay. Okay. So what was your impression like when you started discovering that they were really going for Kiev? What did you think about what was going on?
Well, it's kind of a weird because they're saying that they're going there to like liberate the areas, right? And as far as we know, like that really eastern part of Ukraine, like I'm not even sure if Ukraine actually has like even any full control of it or if they have like their own government there. So if they were like really coming to liberate those oppressed regions, like they say, why didn't they invaded the eastern part and like, secure that border? Why actually move on Kiev?
Mhm.
Because at
Mhm.
this point, it's almost like they're not trying to liberate the part that they say that they want to protect. They're there to like take control of the whole country.
Is that what you believe that Putin wants is to take control of the whole country?
Well, why would they be attacking capital then? If they take capital, then technically they conquered the whole Ukraine, right?
Mhm. Well, but according to Putin, the president of Ukraine is a neo-Nazi and he needs to denazify the entirety of Ukraine and that's why they went in.
Uh, I didn't see any evidence for that. President seems to actually be like actual first president that deserved to be president in Ukraine. And I mean, you can see his actions. I mean, he's not hiding, he's not running away. He really is there to like stay with the people. So I don't know how that can be dictated as a neo-Nazi or
Mhm. Oh,
I
sound
used to
went
be
out
like
again. Oh, go ahead.
I just don't know how it can be. How can they see it as a neo-Nazi? Like what did he do as a neo-Nazi? That there is no evidence that he did that.
Well, I guess they're saying that he supports this one battalion that like actually has legitimate far right people in it, and that makes him a neo-Nazi. What are your opinions on that?
Again, I don't know for sure. I did not live there through all this. Um, I've seen that there is like some battalion, but I think the official statement of the government that they are not in control. They used to be part of the military, but then they decided to act on their own. So
Mhm. And what do you mean when you say that this president is the first president that actually deserves to be president of Ukraine? Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
well, I just think that like every other president that we had before would already be out of Ukraine or would be hiding somewhere. Like this guy seems to actually care about Ukraine. He cares about people, and he seems to be caring about sovereignty. And he's willing to like put himself in danger to show people that he is with them.
Mm-hmm.
He
Mm-hmm.
it seems like he's being a real leader instead of like jumping on a plane and going somewhere safe and like passing orders to the troops and putting them in danger, but not himself.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, guys, we're here talking to my Ukrainian husband, Victor, who has generously agreed to come on the stream today. Please
Generously.
generously agreed to come on the stream in exchange for the super chats being donated to his gun fund. so
That's
so
not exactly why I did it. I was just kidding about gun, but
well, no,
but
you wanted go ahead.
I mean, it would be a nice perk, but it was just
Don't tell the people that, Victor. We're gonna get you a new gun out of this as a prize. But guys, if you're enjoying the chat with Victor, please make sure to mount that like button for me. And we're just gonna start going through some super chats and answering any questions that you guys might have. So if you have a question that you would like Victor to answer, please make sure you chat in and contribute to the gun fund. Cliff Lee says, "Is this considered arming Ukrainian nationals?" Yeah, it kind of is. Now, you were telling me that so your brother what like he's not feeling well right now, but like your brother is actually pretty excited to go and get his gun and to fight the Russians. Can you tell me about some of the things that your brother's been saying to you?
yeah. So I mean, I was asking him like, do you want to like maybe go to Poland? Like the borders are open, but he's very adamant about staying and defending the homeland. Um, yeah, I mean they've been so I don't know if they're doing the same in Nikolaev. Like I know they did that in uh, Kiev when they were giving away like rifles to people with the Ukrainian passports to support
Mhm.
military. I believe right now they're like more like actually like recruiting people into like the military. So yeah, his words are as soon as he recovers, he's gonna be there signing up.
Mhm. I mean, and we've seen a lot of people that are stepping up and just like normal people in Ukraine and going and getting guns and saying it's their responsibility to go and fight. And how has that kind of made you feel?
So that actually kind of made me. That, I mean, I honestly been kind of proud of my country because I didn't expect them to be as like defending themselves as much as they are because previously I've seen Crimea that was pretty much invaded without a shot. Like the military bases were just opening the gates and letting Russian military in. So honestly, when it started, I thought like, are they just gonna do the same? Are they just gonna be afraid to fight back? But it seems that now this time they actually. I don't know. I almost feel like again, it's my opinion with Russia taking Crimea and trying to take away that eastern part of the Ukraine. I think it almost made people angry and like made them more patriotic in a way. Because now it's like, oh my God, like what else are you coming from now? Like
Hmm.
we enough is enough. We need to like defend ourselves. I think that's what's been happening. And about people like picking up arms and like fighting back. Again, it's not proven. I haven't seen anything yet, but my brother was saying that even like the celebrities, like singers and like actors, are like signing up and
Mhm.
trying to defend the country, which is kind of cool.
And your sound went out again, but like you were telling me, oh, it's back. I don't know why it keeps doing that, but the sound is definitely coming in and out. But you were telling me, you what was I gonna? Oh, when all this first started, like within like the first 24 hours, and everyone like if you went onto Twitter or looked at the news, everyone was like, Kiev's gonna fall within hours. This isn't even gonna take that long. Putin's gonna roll in and take over the whole country, and you were actually extremely adamant that you were like, Karlyn, they're not going to roll in and take over. Like, and you even said we did an AMA on Twitter the other day where you said that Ukraine has like a long history of being invaded and defending themselves from invaders. And you were very adamant that you didn't think that this was going to be an easy walk for Putin. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yes. So that's actually one of the reasons why Moscow was even created and the capital was moved there from Kiev to Moscow, because there were a lot of invasions from Turkey, and there was a lot of invasions from like Asian tribes at that time. So Mongol Tatari, they used to be called. Um, so Kiev was too close. So whenever those tribes invaded, it was easy for them to get up to Kiev, right? That's why, as far as I remember from the history, that's why capital was moved further north, so it would be harder for them to invade. So yeah, that part has been invaded. And they've been even invaded by Poland, Hungary. At that time, I believe it was like a religion-based invasions. But yeah, there was always like they always were trying to fight back, and that's why even like the Kazakh army was existed. That's what was happening. They would get invaded, people would organize, and they would start like putting resistance.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's why I thought like, and even like looking, even in the World War II, I mean, Kiev was one of the first um, parts of the USSR that got invaded, but they always had the uh, partisani, like the not the part they were not part of the military, but they were like normal people who would just like arm themselves, and they would just fighting German invasion along with the like normal military. So that's why I thought like it seems like we do have that spirit. Like yeah, there might be like a bigger country that invades, but we've always seemed to want to be independent and had a will to go for it and make sacrifice for it.
Hmm. All right. Let's dig into some more super chats that have come in. Patrice says, here's one for the gun pool. Can never have too many. Let's.
Correct.
Oh, look, tune in to drop out $50. Go to a. I mean, it is kind of funny though. Like Ukraine is at you. You were telling me yesterday, so they're handing out like guns to just all the citizens now to try to arm their citizenry. And you said something about like you hope that the president tries to push for his own kind of like 2A thing after this. Can you tell a little bit more about that?
Correct. So I was hoping that at this point they will realize that citizens having firearms uh, would actually be a good idea, because that way you don't have to spend few days giving away firearms. As soon as you get invaded, everybody already has guns. Um, Honestly, like, see what scares me. What happens next? So say Russia gets defeated, right? Or they just run out of money and they can't proceed with the war. Do you think this is the last time they're going to try this? So they're just gonna go back, try to collect more resources, and try to do this again?
Mm-hmm.
Like that's a possibility. So honestly, maybe what they should do, maybe they should even have 2A, but have like a stipulation. Not like a stipulation, but like for purchasing of the firearms, maybe do even like a government subsidy. Like you're buying a rifle, you can get it for half off, but you sign a paper. If the country gets invaded, you are going to be there to use that rifle.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Seems like a good idea to prevent the future invasions.
Yeah, I mean, so what do you think happens if Putin kind of is defeated in this one? Well, actually, no, let me before we get into that. What do you how do you feel about the world response to Ukraine being invaded?
Oh God, this is such a hard question. I've been thinking about it a lot. Uh, so obviously, in a best case scenario, like we would like from the standpoint of people from Ukraine, right? They would like NATO to be there and help. But is that the best idea? No, because then it's just gonna trigger different type of war, and we don't want that, because we only have one planet, and we should do everything to keep it livable. So I think maybe as long as NATO is there to help Ukraine with firearms, I think that should be enough. Because if NATO is going to start bringing troops into Ukraine, it's going to make things worse.
Yeah. And you think that this is really all because Putin wants to keep Ukraine as a cushion between Russia and NATO, right?
I believe so, because I mean Ukraine is a pretty big country, right? You're not gonna be from Poland into Russia in a few hours. So like if you need to move troops, it would take a long time to cross Ukraine. So I believe it would give him like more response time if he thinks that like NATO would try to invade Russia if they want to put those anti-rocket systems closer to the border. I think it's safer for him to have Ukraine as a cushion between him and NATO. Um, and I think like I honestly think if that's his plan, even if they invade Ukraine and they win, they probably would not make it like a part of Russia. There is a good chance I think he would probably even just like leave it as a like Ukraine, but install different governments there just to keep that separation between NATO countries and Russia.
Mm-hmm.
But it also another reason could be just access to like waterways to the Black Sea. I mean that can also be another reason why they want to get into Ukraine.
All right. All right. For the gun fund, no questions, but I welcome any advice for first-time gun owners. After seeing the events in Ukraine, I will be buying my first. Victor, any advice for first-time gun owners? Because you've been trying to get me to go to the range with you to learn how to shoot, so this is probably good advice for me too.
Yes. So first thing you would need to think about what you want to use the gun for, which will determine the size of the gun and potentially the caliber of the gun. The most popular guns right now are 9mm caliber, which seems to be very versatile and it's easy to use because bigger caliber will give you harder recoil, so they're not as friendly for the first time users. Um, for the gun, the other thing, consider carry. If you want to carry gun, you also need to you should probably go with a popular model of the gun because that way it's going to be very easy to find holster. There's going to be more manufacturers that will produce different holsters. You can have holster just for the gun. You can have holster that supports on gun mounted flashlight, which is probably useful to have. The other thing to do too, to think about, a lot of people are going for Glocks. Glock is like the one that's the most popular gun. Everybody knows Glock exists. And so when people who never bought gun before, they tend to go and buy a Glock. One thing to know, I'm pretty sure most of the Glocks don't have safety. So if you're a first time owner, I would probably get the gun with a safety because that way you will be um, in your mind it will be safer to carry it because you know you have safety on, nothing will happen. On the Glock there is no safety, so that's one thing to look for. Again, some people are comfortable without safety, some people are not. Some people buy Glocks and then bring them home, realize they don't have safety on them, and then they bring them back to the store, and then they get half of the price for the buyback for what they paid. um, what else am I missing? Something?
No,
I
I
feel
think
like I'm
that's
missing something.
I think that's good. We can.
Oh,
Oh, go ahead.
do a research. Don't just go and just buy it. Go online and look through the popular manufacturers. Yeah, maybe even Glock, but maybe Sig and Sauer is amazing manufacturer. Look at the ones that you like, you think you would get, and then go do a research. Go on YouTube, there are a bunch of reviewers and like see what people think, um, how they perform, because that way you will. It's better to do a research because that way you're not just gonna go buy a gun, not be happy with it, and have to trade it in.
All right. Well, guys, if you're enjoying this so far, please make sure you mount that like button. Victor, we are already up to $474 in your gun fund.
What?
Yes. People are being
Wow.
generous with the super chats today because they're so appreciative of you coming on and giving your perspective. So Roman says, thank you for Victor for explaining the situation. Murphy's Pool says, is Jack Murphy coming? He is not. Jack Murphy sadly still has me blocked on Twitter. So it is what it is. LK says, from my Estonian family to your Ukrainian one, a smidge for the gun fund. Also, what is your favorite Ukrainian food you think we should all try?
Varyaniki. Definitely varyaniki. They're also known as pierogis, but pierogis seem to be like a fried version of it. For me, I always like boiled version. So it's basically a plain dough, and then you roll out in little circles, and then you make mashed potatoes with butter and add some fried onions into it. Then you just put the potato in the middle of the circle, put the edges together, and
Mm-hmm.
then you just end up boiling them. And it's very easy to cook because you bring water to boil, add some salt to the taste, then put the vareniki in, let wait until they start floating, wait for 3 minutes, 3 4 minutes, depending on how thick the dough is, and then just take it out, add butter. You can add more fried onions and make sure they're like brown to the point of caramelized fried onions, some butter, and then just eat it with the sour cream.
Victor used to make like a whole giant bowl of these things. I don't know, but Victor, we need to get you cooking again because he used to make like a whole giant bowl of these things and it'd be like food for days and they were really, really good.
I think that's how it started because like I know for like my family they always like, and you think I made a lot,
Mm-hmm.
like that bowl that I made.
Giant
The
bowl.
Yeah, so that was the piece of dough that they started with.
So they made
And
several giant bowls.
oh yeah, that was probably like 10 times more than what I used to make. And like it would be like the whole family project. Everybody would be like sitting making them, and you probably would be, you know, my grandmother used to wake up earlier just to start the dough, let it sit, and then we would wake up around 8 or so, and everybody would start making vareniki. And then probably around noon, we would be done with making them and started to actually boil them. And then once the first few batches would come out, we would just start eating. But then you would have like a giant bowl of it, and it would be like left over, and you pretty much have that food for the rest of the week. And I think that's kind of it started. That's how it was like you make a bunch of snacks for the rest of the week, so when you work, you don't have to worry about it.
All right. Well, let's get into Victor, we're getting so many super chats. The gun fund is now up to $586. So we need to start working our way through some super chats. And thank you guys for being so generous. Matthew says, God bless you and all of Ukraine, Victor. We're all with you. Let's see. Let's see. Okay. Christopher says, how much COVID tyranny has there been in Ukraine over the past 2 years? Do you think Poland or Finland will get involved and get wired headphones? Victor likes his AirPods. But Victor, how so you were in Ukraine like about like less than a year ago, right? Because you went back
Yeah.
for your grandmother's funeral, sadly. What was it like with COVID there?
It was a lot more lax there than it is here. Um, like public transportation was working, and the way it is there in Ukraine nowadays, they do have big buses like we have in the city, but they also use a lot of mini buses that are privately owned, and you just like buy rides for the certain route that you want to do, and it's like your own mini bus, and you just like work for yourself. Um, So I tried to take taxi as much as I could because I didn't want to risk catching COVID and not being able to come back to US whenever I was scheduled to. But I did end up going into one of those little minibuses one time, and yeah, I mean, people were sort of wearing masks, but
Not
it
really.
was on their face, but not really. And yeah, it was just pretty much packed. Like people were just sitting next to each other. Some people were standing. So yeah, it wasn't like really as there was nothing like, oh my God, you're not wearing mask inside. Like, what are you doing? It was people didn't really care all that much.
Mhm. All right.
About headphones, I do have wired headphones, but when I started, it's connected to my desktop PC. But when I started working from home, I had to disassemble it and put my work PC there. So now I'm using a tablet. That's why I'm using the
It's fine.
wireless.
It's fine. The wireless are working out just fine. No need to be self-conscious about it. Incognito says, war is merciless, unforgiving, which makes monsters and kills innocent people. Here is towards new gun, an army we say, if you got 'em, smoke 'em. Thank you, Incognito, for that. Filipino White Boy says, what do you think Putin's real goal is with this invasion? I've heard mixed reports from the encroachment of NATO to him wanting to bring back the former borders of the USSR. Victor, what is Putin's real goal, do you think?
So I definitely think it's NATO. I think that's what's like triggering him to. He probably just like thinks that like because it's getting so close, like maybe he's thinking like that's maybe he doesn't feel safe with his borders. So if he has like these former USSR countries around him, maybe that makes him feel safer. I don't know exactly. He's getting older too, so I don't know if he's still as sharp as he used to be, or maybe this is just a mistake. Um, there's also resources. Ukraine has like one of the best soils in the world. That's why it's always been like when it was USSR, there was food coming from Ukraine and it was being delivered all over USSR. So maybe that's another like just maybe resources that's a possibility, and also access to Black Sea. I think that's also a possibility.
All right. Justina says, thank you, Victor, for sharing some of yourself with us, and Karlyn for sharing him with us, praying for your family and all of your countrymen. We appreciate the super
Thank you.
chat. Elena, thanks to you both for being on today to share insight. Thank you, Elena. Ashley says, you're natural, Victor. Great job. Victor, you guys don't know because you don't know Victor. Victor, I can tell Victor's a little nervous right now. That's okay. He doesn't stream all the time like I do. JL, thank you for the super chat. Um, Brittany says, looking forward to this, and here's to the gun fund. Guys, please remember, you can ask Victor a question if you're sending in a super chat, but I will go ahead and display these on the screen because we're very
Pew pew
appreciative of them
funds.
for the Pew Pew Fund. Let's see. Let's see. Just scrolling. Okay. Real Monkey Rogue. The whole place is amazing. Miss Ukraine, and the two MMA brothers are out too. The Gun Fund. How American. Victor, did you like appreciate like gun ownership as much before you came to America?
So I mean, honestly, I think every guy to the point is interested in a gun. I don't know. For
Mhm.
me, it was, but I think like what I appreciated being here is the ability to get one. Because there you can only, I believe, I don't know if anything changed, but when I was there, you can only buy like a CO2 powered, so basically like a toy
Mhm.
gun. But here, when I came up here and when I actually like, I appreciate being able to do it here.
Mhm. Now, one of the things I found interesting that we were talking about the other night is so you like someone on Twitter asked you like if there was mandatory military service, and you said like, well, just tell us a little bit more about like is there mandatory military service in Ukraine, and did you go through mandatory military training?
So right now, there is not. I don't know if once the invasion started, if they did and put the draft in place, but in the last probably like 10 years or so, I believe the military became professional military like we have it here. When I was growing up, there was still a draft, and when I was got done in school, if I did not go to college, I would have been drafted. Um, but because I was going to college, I didn't have to go to the military. And when I was still in Ukraine, the latest you could be drafted was 25. After you after you reach the age past 25, then you are not eligible for the draft. But then I ended up coming here, so
But you did have military training that you did in high school.
yes, yes. It was in the school at that time there were 11 grades, and in a 10th and 11th grade we had like it was almost like a prelude to the actual military training. So like they were teaching us how to march, they were teaching us how to shoot. We did not shoot live guns at the school. Obviously, we shot the air pump BB guns, but apparently it's the same way you aim with a normal gun. They gave us some like technical um, information as well. So they showed us how like mines worked, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
which was actually a really funny story. I can tell if you guys want to hear it or not. And they also showed us how to use calculations for like shooting distances. I don't remember it, but they did show it to us.
All right.
And then,
Stefan, oh, go ahead.
okay, I'm sorry. And then after we actually got done with the whole training, I believe it was like at the end of the 11th grade, they did take us to the military base, and I think they gave us like 7 or 10 rounds for like AK, and if you had money, you could pay and like shoot other weapons.
All right. Stephanie says, "Get this man a new gun. Love your work. Appreciate that, Stephanie." Skidmark says, "For a free Ukraine and Victor's new firearm, I don't think I've ever seen so many countries agree to sanction another country before. Shows you how bad Russia's actions have been viewed as." Have you been surprised, Victor, at the amount of outpouring for support for Ukraine and basically people saying, this is not acceptable, Putin?
I mean, I'm not surprised because I think his actions actually deserve to get these sanctions. And it is actually also very helpful. People think like, because I know like my parents think that like NATO should just go in and help, but like I don't think they realize that like in the long run, the sanctions may be a better option. I was
Mm-hmm.
surprised that they actually put some restrictions on a SWIFT for their central bank because
Mm-hmm.
that's pretty harsh sanction.
Why is that important? Can you explain to people what Swift is and why that sanction in particular was important?
So what I remember from my traveling, um, we would go into like before I went to Ukraine for the first time, I would set up my bank account there, and they would give me a transfer information, which includes a SWIFT number. So whenever once I got done working in England, I would have to transfer my money back to Ukraine, and you need to have a SWIFT number assigned to the bank or country in order to be able to transfer money. So if the SWIFT is restricted or declined completely for the country, then they can't do business internationally. So there's no money coming in or coming out from the country.
Mm-hmm. All right. Stop them says stop them is one of the people in the chat right now who thinks that Ukraine is filled with neo-Nazis. Zelensky failed to uphold the Minsk agreement. Lots of neo-Nazis in government and military. Do you have anything to say?
I mean, I don't think that they're I haven't seen anything that supports that claim.
Yeah.
But again, I'm not an expert on this. I haven't been living there in what since 2004. So
Well, I think that your brother fought in the revolution, right?
yes, he participated in their own town. Yes.
So, I mean, did he see has your brother told you about roving bands of neo-Nazis existing in Ukraine and any part of it?
No, no, and I haven't really seen it myself when I was there, and my family is Russian speaking too. So like, if there was some nationalistic movement against Russian speaking people, they would have known about it, I'm guessing, but
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
haven't seen anything.
And that's not to say I don't think that neither of us are denying that there is that one battalion that's kind of, to be quite frank, a little problematic, to use one of their words. But that one battalion, and Victor, like, correct me if you think that I'm saying anything incorrect, is not actually proof of there being a neo-Nazi regime in Ukraine. And that doesn't even make any sense considering that Zelensky is Jewish.
Yeah, yeah, I don't think so. I hope not, but
Hmm.
I don't think that's true.
Hmm. All right. David Skidmore says, "I've always thought that the whole I don't know what that means would be more understood if it was not perpetuated by communists. Since it was perpetuated by the left, the truth seems to be suppressed." Victor, do you agree? Do you know what I don't know what that word is.
Holodomor, yes. So that was when all the food was moved away from Ukraine, which caused like hunger over the winter in Ukraine, and a lot of people died.
Oh, that was like the famine?
Yeah,
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about that for people who don't know what that is?
I honestly don't remember much about history about this. I just know it happened. I know that there was like one year where all the rations and like all the storages were emptied, and it was just all the food was moved away from the country.
Mhm.
I don't remember why it happened or for what reason.
Okay.
I just know that a lot of people died due to the food shortages.
Mhm. All right. Murphy's Pool says, "Hey kids, what are we drinking? I'm not drinking anything exciting today, Murphy's Pool, but I'm still got that the pink Moscato concoction on written down for later. I am hearing a lot about fake stories and fake pictures. Can you address any obvious propaganda that you've seen? Thank you." Victor, have you seen any obvious propaganda?
Honestly, it's hard to say. Like, how can you even say which one is true, which one is not? There is so many. I I've seen something one time on the YouTube that where somebody was like posting same pictures from 2015 and I'm posting them now.
Mhm.
But again, like, it's so hard to say right now because obviously every country and different account from like Twitter account from Russia will tell you different story from the Twitter account in Ukraine, and even if they're like all verified, it's hard to say which is true, which is not.
So how are you determining what you believe is true and what's not?
I just kind of look at everything that's posted and like what is the majority
Mhm.
says, like what's if there is like one story that contradicts everything else, it's most likely propaganda.
Have you asked your brother about any of it?
I have been asking him, but again, he's been sick. He's been at home most of the time, so he doesn't really know.
Right, but he still offers an opinion.
He hasn't said much. Like
Oh,
I told you, I talked to him like two or three times, but every time it was like very short, and he was like, "I haven't left home in like last 3 days."
okay. That's not what I heard the other night, but fine. Skidmark says, "Sorry, that's not that I meant Ukraine was ever free." Mizzou, thank you for the super chat. I visited Kiev, and I don't know how do you pronounce that other one, Victor?
Lviv.
Lviv.
Yep.
In the 90s, great friendly people. If you know of a legit site to donate to help Ukrainian refugees, please post. Do you know, you might not even know, like, do you know of any legitimate places to donate to help Victor?
I don't, but I can search around. I can ask people that I still know there and see if
Hmm.
there is anything available.
I think
And
that would be
you
really
can
helpful.
tweet it afterwards.
That sounds like a plan. How dare you, says someone in Putin's inner circle needs to escort him off a cliff. He's a pretty dangerous dictator. God bless 2A. Victor, what is your opinion of Putin in general?
Well, I mean, in general, he should not even be a president. I mean, his 2 terms expired a long time ago. I mean, he is a dictator. He just made all the laws changed just in order for him to continue being president. So, yeah, my opinion, he shouldn't even be president at this point.
Hmm. Deborah Evans for the cause. Thank you, Deborah, for that. We appreciate it. Um, I don't know how to pronounce your name, my friend. Do you think East and West Ukraine will split up?
I hope not. I just, it's so silly. Like, I don't understand. Like, what, I don't even know why this is happening. Like, this country has been like together for so long. Like, why start changing things every time you start like separating countries? Like, it's not a good idea because you whenever you have infrastructure that's already set up and now you start separating things, it ruins things for everybody.
Hmm.
I think, yeah,
Well,
I don't think it's a good idea. I hope not.
and you made the point to me the other night. You said, Karlyn, if they want to be part of Russia, they can just go live in Russia.
Yeah, they could. Yeah, I mean, there is like you don't need to have visa to go live in Russia, and especially if they at this point they would be probably welcomed with open arms. So
Hmm.
yeah,
So I mean, you grew up in a Russian-speaking part of Ukraine, right?
yep.
So like and I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I seem to remember you telling me like at one point that your father was not necessarily pleased that Ukraine like left the USSR.
So when it was part of USSR, he was very pro-Ukraine. He was always talking about being separate and being independent. And then when USSR got divided into 15 different countries, economy crashed, obviously. So like few years into that, and like when life became a lot harder, that's when he started thinking like maybe it wasn't a good idea. But I think
Mhm.
at this point I think at this point he wants the Ukraine to be independent.
How does your father feel about you being married to an American?
But he's fine with that.
Hmm.
No, he is. Why wouldn't he be?
I
He
don't
was
know.
not
That's not what
happy.
you told me before.
No, he's not. It's not that he's not happy with me being married to an American. He's not happy with me living here.
Oh,
Yeah, he always thinks that it's a mistake. He thinks I would have a better life there.
well,
But
I think we obviously disagree on that point, and current
yes,
affairs might prove that point otherwise very quickly.
for sure.
Charles says, "What would you think if Ukraine became a neutral country like Switzerland and was a DMZ in that no other countries could have a military presence there in Ukraine?"
Um, do you mean including Ukrainian military
Well, I don't know. I
or?
don't think he means you like just like no NATO essentially.
Uh, I would be okay with that, but there needs to be some like guarantees.
What do you mean?
Um, so there needs to be guarantees that neither side would invade. You know what I mean? Like it's fine to be demilitarized zone as long as neither side will try to do something. Because that's why Ukraine wants to be part of NATO. I mean, they don't feel safe with Russia being there. That's why they wanted to be part of NATO to like make sure they're protected.
Do you think it's a good idea for Ukraine to be part of NATO?
For Ukraine individually, yes. I don't know if it's the best idea as a like world politics,
Hmm.
because it is, again, it's going to be putting that pressure on Russia, and I'm guessing like at this point, the more pressure you put on Putin, the more like unsafe he feels with his borders.
Mm-hmm. All right. Ralph just says sunflower. Thank you, Ralph, for the super chat. We
Oh
appreciate
yeah,
it.
in the back.
Oh, yeah, I painted that. I was really pleased. I was going to make that as a gift to someone, and then I decided not to. I decided to keep it. Kelly R says, it's not much, but for the new gun, I'm fully aware of the fascination once you get one. They're like potato chips. Yes, this will be not the first gun Victor has purchased. Alexandra says how to send gun fees with how to send gun funds with min fees. Welcome, Victor. I do know that some people in the chat are giving the suggestion if you don't want to pay like the YouTube 30% with a super chat, you can also make one-time donations through locals. And I won't be able to calculate those right now, but I know some people have been making one-time donations on kb.locals.com/support. Since Victor and I are married, my money is his money and his money is my money. And so so I can assure you that the donations through locals today will also be going to Victor's gun fund. Let's see. Karlyn, many women are natural shots. You might be a better shot than Victor. My wife is a better pistol shot than me, though I shoot 10 times more. I think I would be very good at shooting a gun. Victor just hasn't been able to find time to drag me to the range yet.
I've been trying.
He has been trying. It's true. Enjoying the food talk. Does Ukraine have a tradition of ornate Easter eggs decorations? That's a good question, Victor.
Yes, we do. Yes, that's definitely part of preparing for the Easter. Although my family was never all that industrious about it. Some people go way and beyond about doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But there are also like few ways you can do it. Some people do it just for the decoration. So like they put like a tiny hole in the egg and they drain the remains and they fill it out with wax, with a liquefied wax. That way it's not fragile anymore, and then they can go to town with like decorating it. But we never done that. We would just it's actually, I'm not sure if anybody knows about it. So what they were doing, we were just doing like a natural coloring for the egg. So if you buy white eggs with white shell, what you can do, you can take the peels of the onion, just that orange flaky stuff. You fill the pot with water, you put those flakes, and you put eggs in it, and it actually colors them like orangish kind of color
Mm-hmm.
after you boil them, just from those onion skin.
Oh, okay. Charles with a big super chat. Thank you, Charles, for that. We appreciate it. Still at work, so I can't watch right now, but just wanted to contribute. Cheers. Thank
Thank
you
you,
very much for that.
Jesus.
Yeah, Victor, we are at $720 for your gun fund. It looks like you're getting a new gun. Yay!
Woo!
Melanie Hartwell says, thank you for the live stream, holding light around your family and the entire Ukraine. Victor's like, I'm coming on the channel all the time now if I can get a gun. Ashley says $10 to the Ukrainian pierogi fund, and can you send them to Pennsylvania? I am actually going to Pennsylvania this week, so maybe I'll have you make some for the drive, Victor. Um, oh, this is a great question from Melissa. What was it like growing up with Chernobyl nearby? Did it affect anyone in your family? And it did affect you, right? You remember Chernobyl.
I remember it happening. So, and I do remember that there was a parade right after it happened, and like nobody knew it happened. So there was like a bunch of people outside for the parade. That was like still part of the USSR thing. And then we got home, and I think a few days later, eventually they actually notified us that Chernobyl, um, one of the reactors exploded. And so honestly, Chernobyl is very close to Kiev. So I think it affected, like, as far as health conditions, I think it probably affected people more there. Um, Nikolaev is probably like 300-400 miles away, at least from Chernobyl. So I don't think like there was like enough of the radiation increase to cause any changes. But I always make fun because like if people say something, I'm like, oh yeah, I grew up in Chernobyl or next to Chernobyl. Do you remember? Like even when the movie days, like people would say something. Yeah.
Well, okay, speaking of that, let's tell this story. Like, so do you want to, so just for a fun story that I think the women in the chat will appreciate. Victor, how did we meet?
Well, I used to work for the moving company, so I was your mover when you were moving from Vermont to New Hampshire.
Mhm. And
Um, well, I guess I was like lifting big, heavy things, and you were impressed with it.
you did lift big heavy things, but also I had been trying to learn how to speak Russian, and you were probably the first Russian native speaker that I had ever met.
Yeah, and did I offer you to like give you help with Russian language?
I think we talked about like how I wanted to learn how to speak Russian, and yeah, I think you may have offered to give me help, and I think you also tried to strike up conversation around computers or something.
Yes, because you had the same type of monitor. Because I just got my PC that time, and you had the same monitor with the built-in webcam. It was just a little bit smaller than the one I had. Yeah, I
Mhm.
think I definitely asked you. I left you my number somehow. I don't remember how I
You did,
left.
you did. You were very like Victor was very sneaky about making sure that I had his number so I could call him. And I think it was like I think it was like you gave me your number and was like, if you can't find anything, call me. And then it was
Oh,
like I think within an hour of you leaving, I actually did call you because I legitimately couldn't find something, and then you had my number, and then I think we were, communicating online not too long after that.
yep.
Mm-hmm. It was all downhill from there. All it took was lifting a really heavy piece of furniture and I was hooked.
Well, it came handy a lot of times. Like,
It did come in handy. I'm telling you what, like more women should marry men based off the fact that they can move heavy furniture by themselves. It's a very useful thing to have around the house. Christian says, "Do you think the Euromaidan revolution was a grassroots movement? How do you feel about it? Do you know what the Euromaidan revolution is?"
I do not.
I have no idea what it is either, so I can't help that one. But thank you, Christian, for the super chat. Let's see. It's going down the list. Okay, skid marks, a little extra for the gun fund. We appreciate that. Glenda says, doing this for the catalyst. I know I'm not able to super chat, but would Victor consider someone born in Winnipeg to Ukrainian parents to be Ukrainian? That's a good question, Victor.
Um, I mean, if you were born there, then
Born in Canada to Ukrainian parents.
well, I mean, at that point they're Canadian. But I mean, you can still consider being Ukrainian.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you still like carry over the culture, yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, Naruto says, knowing that in Putin's eyes, he's not invading another country, he's reclaiming territory that already belongs to Russia. I think Ukraine isn't the end. What do you think about that perspective, Victor, that Putin thinks that he's just reclaiming territory that already belongs to him?
Yeah, that's the scary part, and that's what I mean. We've talked about it before because it is Ukraine like the last step. It's like if he invades Ukraine and he wins, and is it the last step, or he's just gonna continue getting more countries and become stronger? That's why I was like, does NATO really need to go in, or just send help? Because what are his like final? It's so hard. Like I hope he's not gonna move in because I believe there are a lot of like countries that used to belong to USS, they were part of USSR, and they're like part of NATO now. I don't think he's gonna try to do that. I don't think he's gonna try to invade any countries that are part of NATO. But the ones that are not, he may he may do it. But I mean, again, it depends how tough it is in Ukraine. I mean, if they're really gonna have like that top of the time and they won't be able to complete what they wanted, then maybe it will stop him from wanting to do that. Because I mean, I don't think he's a smart guy. I mean, if he's gonna continue to ruin like economy of his country, he's
Mhm.
not gonna be in power anymore because eventually people are gonna be like, enough, it's enough. Like, so if this really devastates his economy, like this invasion of Ukraine, I hope it's gonna stop his plans and like reclaiming territories. But who knows?
Who knows? So people have been chatting in that the Euromaiden was the ousting of the pro-Russian president in 2014, which is the thing that I didn't know that was what it was called, but that was what your brother fought in, right?
Yes, I participated.
Wow.
Um, I don't know. I don't know. I hope so because I just know at that time, like even talking with my parents, because like they were never really like, my father is not gonna like go do anything. He's gonna like complain about things, but he's not like the one that will actually do something about
Just
it.
like your average Republican. It's okay. Your father's
So,
basically the Ukraine version of a Republican.
but I know they were always complaining about Yanukovych because they were always saying that he's like a puppet of Russia and like he used to be like a criminal and he still is criminal and he's stealing money and
Well,
so
we didn't like him because like he was president right when we were having to do like your immigration stuff, and we had to bribe people to get documents out of your country.
we
Like,
thought we would need to, but yeah, we ended up actually finding a normal way. But
mhm.
yeah, at that time there was some kind of company that said they would help with passport to make it like quicker. But yeah, they were trying to like charge us like 10 times more than normal fee to
Mhm.
get passport.
But we didn't like that. Like I mean, one of the things that you've always said to me about Ukraine and why you left is you didn't like all the corruption that was going on.
Correct. Yeah. Yeah, that's it's like I don't know if it got any better since, but like when I was still there, it seemed like people were going to colleges, people were trying to get education and like get a good job, not because it paid better or because they were actually wanting to have their job. It's just because it would give them opportunity to steal more. And that's what it seems like. Like it seems like here, if you work, if you have a good job, or even like a relatively good job, like something you can have a good life. You don't have to look over your shoulder. But it seems like there, even if you have a good job, it's still not enough. You always have to do like hustle, do something extra just to be able to survive. And like it's not me. I would not be able to live like that. So that was another reason why
Mhm.
I felt like US was more of a country for me to live in, felt more like home here.
All right. Ashley Clare says, this is for Victor. I had to Google Swift. A family friend of ours had two cousins in the Capitol in a shelter, and they are scared. Ladies in their early 20s. I mean, that's pretty like, in Kiev, they're basically like having people go into their basements or going into like, underground tunnels and things like that. And, thank God your family isn't having to do that at
Well,
the moment.
the metro there right now is closed as well. Like the trains are not going; they only use it as a shelter for people. And I most of the buildings, like apartment buildings, do have like a pretty deep basements, so there
Mhm.
is place to hide. And as far as I know, they even have like a not the martial law. What's the name? Uh, like they have to. People should not be outside of their like houses and buildings since like what 5 p.m. to 8 a.m. or something.
Like a curfew.
Yeah, yeah. I think there's a curfew in Kiev.
Hmm.
Yeah, anybody but the military personnel should not be out after certain time.
All right. Cliff Lee says, I know you are not old enough to remember this, but what was the sentiment of average Ukrainians in the 70s to the 90s over the control from Moscow in the former USSR?
Yeah, so I don't like I was saying, I don't know like the average, but I know my father was not happy to be part of USSR. He was all about Ukrainian independence when we were still part of USSR. And I do know like they had meetings actually. Um, I'm not. You guys probably heard Taras Shevchenko. He's a very famous. poet from Ukraine. So there were like meetings around the statue for him for people who wanted to be like independent from USSR. I don't know if it goes as far as like 70s, but I'm pretty sure it was, yeah, it was happening in 80s because I was born in 82 and like we did go to those meetings.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember what like was there celebration when it actually happened that Ukraine left the USSR? Or was like what was the sentiment? Because you were like what? You were like 11, 10, 11, something like that?
No, less nine,
No?
91. I was born in 82. If I'm not messing up the dates. Again, I'm not the biggest history buff. Like history was not my best subject
Mhm.
in school. I think so. I mean, I know my father was pretty happy about it, but remember, like at that time, there was no internet. There was like really no communications. So
Mhm.
we only had like TV with antenna that would get few channels. So there wasn't as much coverage on that as it would have been now.
Hmm.
So it's
All
very hard to judge like the sentiment of the whole country.
All right. Student of history says, I got this Stalin thought it would be a cool idea to get rid of the Kulak's successful small farmers that coincided with a famine across North Europe. Stalin kept taking grain and exporting it, and yeah, lots of Ukrainians died.
Okay, yeah, yeah, that sounds right because yeah, that they kept calling them kulaki, people who were
Hmm.
like successful and had like a big farms.
Hmm. All right, Victor, do you think the ghost of Kiev is real? I want to believe. Do you know what this is?
Nope.
I think it's some sort of like I think it has to, I'm not exactly sure what it is. I think it's kind of like some sort of like hoax thing that's going around the internet.
Oh,
Um
I mean, are you talking about Pечерskaya Lavra where there were like saints buried and apparently they have like healing powers?
no, I don't think that's what they're talking about. But if someone wants to give an I've heard mention of this. I just haven't looked into it all that closely to be honest. But if someone wants to chat in an explanation, then we'll be able to ask the question a little bit better. The sinister sibling says if it is a losing war for Ukrainian fighters, shouldn't they just go scorch earth on everything important in their land, make it only a Pyrrhic victory for Russia, and leave them with nothing? What do you think about that idea, Victor?
No, because that would mean that everybody would have to leave Ukraine after that happens, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what happens like if they do that and part of the population goes to Poland, Hungary, then what happens to the rest of the people that could not uproot their whole life and move out there? Then it's just gonna devastate their life. Um, I wouldn't do that. I would just put all the effort into the defending country versus destroying it yourself.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I think that's a much better use of effort. Okay, so people are saying the Ghost of Kiev is a Ukrainian fighter pilot that appears and takes out Russian jets. And then the Ghost of Kiev is a fighter pilot that has been racking up an impressive kill count against Russian aircraft. So I think this is propaganda. I don't think it's real.
Yeah, I think it's a hoax. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Russia has a population half the size of America with the economy the size of Florida. After the oligarchs take the cream, there can't be much left for everyone else.
No, no, there is not much left. Especially like it's okay in the cities. Like Moscow is a very like rich city. There are a lot of people who have money there. The properties cost a lot of money, even like apartments. But if you move out of the Moscow and you go into like villages, it's extreme poverty there. Like people don't have much. I know a lot of people actually who like inherited apartments in Moscow. A lot of them actually don't even live there. They rent them out. and they go live in like Thailand or something where it's very cheap, so they don't have to work. They just live off the rent of those apartments.
Hmm. I mean, maybe people would be interested to know, so I mean, you literally just went back to the house you grew up in not too long ago. I mean, can you tell us a little bit about the house that you grew up in and what it was like there?
Most of the people probably would not live there. Um, yeah, no, because I mean, even like we didn't even have like a phone, like the normal like home phone when I was growing up. When I was growing up, there was I think until I was like 8 or 9 years old, we didn't have connection to gas. There would be like a truck that would come up and deliver big canisters of gas. We did not have central heating. We ended up doing that later after we got connection to natural gas. Um, they still don't have water. Like you either need to do a well or you just have a dugout shallow well and that water gets delivered by a truck. When I was growing up, like the heating was done with two stoves. There was like one in the kitchen and there was one in the middle of the house. I'm not sure if anybody's seen it. It's like a aluminum stove, and what they do, they cut out a piece of the wall that joins all the rooms, and they put this round stove in the middle, so it heats up every rooms. And then yeah, we would have to get like wood delivered. We would have to get coal delivered, and that's how it was being heated up in the winter.
So how do you feel about like some people in America now asserting that you have white privilege when like you grew up in a house where you didn't have heat, you didn't you still the house you grew up in still to this day does not have running water inside the
Hmm.
house. And you had to, have all of this stuff kind of like delivered. How do you feel about that?
I don't think I had privilege, to be honest with you. I mean, we didn't. It was not a comfortable growing up. I think they do. They sort of have running water right now, but it's not like what we have here because my father did it himself. He just got like a because they still have that well that water gets delivered to, and then what he just bought a pump and he like ran piping himself, and it works, but it's not what we're used to here.
Mhm.
Like you have to the boiler. I mean, they have a boiler, but it's you have to turn it on and like you wait for an hour until water heats up and gets pumped into it. And yeah, it's no, I don't.
You
I
did
don't
not
think
have a
that's
privileged
privilege.
upbringing.
No, yeah, it's yeah, I don't think so. I mean, yeah, I mean, honestly, before I like moved out the country, I probably didn't really know much better. But like after living abroad and going back there, yeah, it's I wouldn't want to live there.
All right. Student of history says an agreement no one will invade, like the agreement that was signed for Ukraine to give up nukes. P.S. to the Boomstick Fund. Thank you, student of history, for that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's I always wonder like if like Zelensky being so ballsy, did they did they sneak up few nukes? Do they still have that?
That's a
Because I
good
mean
question.
that information was secret. Like who says that they did not keep few locations secrets?
Mhm. How
I
do
don't
you
know.
how do you feel about the news today that Russia is basically like posturing regarding their nuclear defense or whatever they're doing?
I mean, what else can they do at this point? Um, I don't know. I like starting the World War III and starting like a nuclear attack. Like even if it's just one country destroyed and not like mutual destruction, it's still gonna cause like nuclear winter. Like it's not going to be yeah, you're instantly bombing like another country, but you're putting population of your people into the nuclear winter and they're just gonna die slower afterwards. Like I don't know why you wouldn't want to do that. Like I don't know.
Mhm. Charles, and I think this was a clarification from earlier saying no, Ukraine would have a military, and like Sweden and Finland, Ukraine would be neutral, as in not a NATO member. So it sounds like we got the interpretation on that one right, Charles, and we appreciate the
Yeah.
super chat.
I
Um,
would be fine with it being that way. I mean, as long as like Russia does not invade. Yeah,
mhm. Skidmark says the whole Ukraine joining NATO is possibly why Putin is invading in the first place. It does not make it right, though. Yeah, that's pretty much your position, is that it's the whole NATO thing.
I think so. Yeah.
And they need to cool it with the NATO. Student of history, Euromaidan, the ousting of the pro-Russian president in 2014. We covered that. Ukraine never belonged to Putin's Russia. Ukraine was created by Lenin or Stalin, wasn't it?
It's so hard to say. No, it was before that because Ukraine as a territory existed during Tsar Russia. That was even before revolution, and it's so weird because like it used to be Kievskaya Rus. That's where it started. That was like initial Eastern European tribes like capital. And like I said, because it was invaded so much, they started making cities further north just to keep them safer from invasion. And eventually, capital was moved to Moscow, and Ukraine became like a province.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Michael Rogers says, this is for a pint or a shot for Victor. Great to see you, by the way. Wish it was under better circumstances. I'm proud of how strong Ukrainians are. Victor, you like okay, so I've been telling people like I've never seen you so proud of Ukraine as I have been in the last week. Do you feel proud of what you're seeing there?
Yeah, yeah. I'm just proud how like resilient they are, and it's so weird. Like from like all the videos you see, and like it seems like we're worried about them more than what they are. They're almost like, oh yeah, we'll be fine. Like we'll survive, or we'll don't worry. But yeah, it's been kind of nice to see, and again for me like it was I, I I was glad to see that like their president is still there, that he didn't abandon the country. That was good.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, it's been like I do feel proud of how they're acting towards it, that they're not completely like devastated by it.
Mm-hmm. And you've had a lot of people reaching out to you, right? And kind of checking in, and you've been having lots of conversations with people about it.
Yeah, I mean, even like people at work, like I mean, I had like a bunch of people reaching out asking how my family is there, how things are going. Yeah, it was good. Seems like people care.
They do. Mandatory Carrie says, hello, Mr. Husband. Keep fighting. Appreciate that, Mandatory Carrie. Let's see. Naruto says NATO's goal is kind of defunct. It exists to stop the USSR. If you can destroy a tank worth 6 million with a shoulder-mounted rocket that costs 267,000, then it seems like the age of tank warfare is over. Any thoughts about that, Victor?
Uh, Probably not. I mean, tank can still do a lot of damage. Tank can do a lot of tactical protection as well. Because even if the tank is destroyed, it's still something that can give protection for the troops
Mm-hmm.
to cover behind it. Because other than that, what you're gonna do? You're just gonna cross the open fields open, or like crawl, hide. If you have a tank, then you can have like a troops behind it covering it up, and then if it gets destroyed, they still have something to protect them from the fire coming at them, and then maybe fight their way through it. I don't know. I'm not like really like I'm not a military man, so I don't know.
That's all right. Did Elon Musk help the Ukrainian expand their internet today? Do you know about this?
Nope.
So apparently, Elon Musk just basically snapped his fingers and turned on his satellite internet service for Ukraine. So even if Russia shuts down the internet in Ukraine, they will still have internet because of Elon Musk.
Are you guys talking about those satellites they've been launching?
Yeah.
Oh, good. I mean, you know what? I've always been saying Elon Musk is like one of the best billionaires out there because he seems to be just minding his business, trying to work on science, space travel.
Hmm.
I bet you Elon Musk right now is like doubling down the budget on his Mars mission
Yeah,
because he's
probably
like, oh,
so.
oh shit. Because that's what he's been always saying. Like, that's why we need to go to another planet because if we only live on one planet, we're so vulnerable, whether it's asteroid strike or war.
Hmm.
I bet you he's like, we need to hurry up.
Jenny's getting inky with it. Says, given Lithuania, Latvia, and Estonia are NATO countries on the border with Russia, how does Ukraine make a buffer?
Um, well, it's a buffer from the Black Sea. So if NATO puts the warships in Black Sea, then you know then they would need to unload the troops through Ukraine, and they would need to travel through Ukraine to get there, right?
Mm-hmm. I think so. Christian says, glory to the heroes, glory to Ukraine. I'm going to get a beer without chunks. Thank you, Christian. We appreciate that. And I think, Victor, we might be nearing the end of that. I think that might be it. I think that might be it for the super chats. Is there anything else that you want to talk about or want people to know about Ukraine or anything else?
I'm just very grateful for this. This is kind of weird for me because I'm not a public person. I don't like to be in front of a lot of people and like speak up my own mind, I guess, because
Mm-hmm.
I always doubt myself whether I'm right or wrong. But this has been great, and I've seen such a support. It's crazy. I did not expect this.
Do you have new appreciation for what your wife does every day on the internet?
Yes.
Now that you've had to sit through an entire hour and a half stream?
But it seems like it's like natural for you because you used to do like a lot of like public speaking, so
Mm-hmm.
like I've never done that.
Well, I mean, you did a great job. Like, I think like streaming it's like a weird thing, and I understand, and it wasn't always natural for me either because I don't like being on camera, as you know, and so no, I mean, I just like I've practiced a lot, so I think you did a great job though. Keep fighting Ukraine. Thank you for that super chat, Victor. Do you want to guess what our final tally is for super chats?
Um, 850.
No, no, almost $790. That's
Oh
still
wow.
enough to get you your gun, right? Oh,
Oh yeah,
wait.
for sure.
$800. Yay. Great to see Victor on your podcast, Karlyn. He is great. Victor, do you want to tell people about the gun that you want?
Yeah. So I don't carry a gun, so it just like we have it at home, and like the thing I do, I just go shoot into the range. So I want to get something more like a competition oriented. So maybe if I go practice and actually get good, maybe I'll try to like sign up for competition. So I'm getting I want to get Canic Rival. They just got released. It's the new iteration, so it seems like they took their previous models and like they took the best features of those previous models and kind of integrated all in one gun. Um, it's optic ready, so you can again if you do competition, you can do both like iron sight or optic competition. And the great thing about Canic, it comes with such an amazing trigger, especially for like the price you pay. If you want to get something that's like a traditional competition pistol, you're probably going to be looking at like $1,200. So
Mm-hmm.
if you can get this one, you're getting amazing quality and like bang for your dollars, I guess. But yeah, that's the reason I want to switch. I want to have something more competition oriented.
Well, that'll be good. Jeremy says, I have nothing religious or philosophical to comment today, but you guys are doing a really cool breakdown. I have no real questions. Thank you. All right, Victor. Well, I guess that's all we have. Thank you for agreeing to come on the stream. Now, people on Twitter did ask if we could do a follow-up stream sometime in the future where you teach me how to swear in Russian.
Maybe.
Do you want to come back and do another stream sometime?
Sure, eventually. Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Why not?
Now
Do
that
something different.
now that you've done one and you know it's okay and no one and nothing bad is gonna happen,
Sure.
and that you can get a new gun if you do it. It's probably a special treat. They won't do this all the time. We would
I
never
wasn't
ask
really.
them to do it all the time.
It was me trying to make a joke, but it actually worked out, I
You
guess.
know what? We don't joke on the internet, Victor. Sometimes when you make jokes when you're drinking one night, the joke becomes a real thing. Sometimes when you make jokes on Twitter, you end up in Newsweek. It's just the way it is. If you make a
Gotcha.
joke, expect it to become real.
I gotta say, if we stream next time, we'll need to work harder on this lighting setup because this camera is not doing me justice at all.
No, Victor is much more handsome than what he seems right now with the
I
lighting. I
look
can
so
confirm.
old.
You don't look old. You're Gabrielle Clark, I'll buy you a beer whenever I can get to Pork Fest. Thank you, Gabs. We appreciate that. You don't look old, Victor.
I look older than I look in normal life.
Well, I mean, like the internet ages everyone, and again, it makes us all look fatter than we are, and all of these things. But I think that you're very handsome, and I think you're very handsome in real life too.
Thank you.
All right, guys. Well, I guess that's all we have for today. Just a reminder, we did preempt effed up news today to give Victor the chance to come on because he didn't want to come on tomorrow because he wants to go to the range tomorrow after work. So we had to do it today. But tomorrow I will be back at 5 p.m. with effed up news of the week. We will do it live tomorrow. I've also got Josh Smith coming on the channel this week, which I'm really excited about. I also have some programming notes because on Thursday, I'm going to be driving to the middle of nowhere, Pennsylvania to go to the Libertarian Party of Pennsylvania convention. So we'll talk about that later this week. But Victor, thank you again for coming on. And I know this isn't like, you don't really like being on camera and it's not your favorite thing to do, but I appreciate you coming on. And I think everyone else appreciates you coming on as well.
Well, thank you for having me. This was awesome. I didn't expect this much of the support. This is crazy for me. The people who actually wanted to see me.
Exactly. Well, I knew they would. I had faith that they would be excited about it. But guys, that's all we have for today. I will be back tomorrow at 5 p.m. And again, just as a reminder, if you want to connect with me, make sure you become a member of my locals. We do have a locals call tomorrow at 7 p.m. So if you join my locals now, you can get in on our locals Zoom calls that we do on Mondays at 7 p.m. and on Wednesdays at noon. And you can do that at kb.locals.com/support. You can start at $5 a month. You can also do $50 a year. You can also make a one-time gift if you want to get around the YouTube 30% fees. Locals fees are much less than that. And when you make a one-time gift through locals, you do, I believe, get access to the community, which is really, really great. So that's all we have for today, guys. Thank you again for tuning in and supporting my awesome husband. I appreciate it. I knew you guys would. And I will see you again tomorrow at 5 p.m.